Hi, hey, hello, and welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about all the books that I read in January. I feel like typically January is one of my strongest reading months, and that's because I usually try and focus on reducing my screen time going into a new year. I'm very much a New Year's resolution girl, so every new year is like, I'm a new person. I try and front load by reading because it's when I'm the most inspired to put my phone down and read instead of scroll. I didn't find a 5-star, and this may sound silly, but it actually has me worried that I will never find a 5-star book again. Long story short, I read 8 books in the month of January. Good job. I did find some good ones, so I want to chat with you about them. I will say, by and large, I was reading on my Kindle and listening to audiobooks this month. I only have one book physically. The first book that I read in 2025 was Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies by Catherine Mack. This book is about Eleanor. She went on vacation like a decade ago, right? And on vacation, she fell in love. She solved a crime. Amazing. And then she went home and she wrote a book about it. Great idea. Good job, Eleanor. And she changes everyone's names, and the only name she doesn't change is Connor, the man that she fell in love with. She didn't change that detail, right? Which would be great, except for then Connor extorted her and was like, well, you used my name, hun, and now you owe me money, and you should keep writing books and keep paying me money. That is what happens. She continues this trajectory of writing books with herself and Connor in them. It's a money-making enterprise for both her and Connor because he's on her payroll. They then go on vacation. It's like a book vacation. It's this big 10-year anniversary. They go on vacation. It's Eleanor, it's Connor, it's a couple of other writer friends, an influencer, Eleanor's ex-boyfriend. Yeah, ex-boyfriend is there as well. Connor then proceeds to tell Eleanor that he thinks that someone is trying to kill him. And she's like, whatever, dude. That's super not happening. As Eleanor pays more and more attention, you see that he might be telling the truth. This book is very cheeky. It's very did you catch that? It's very direct to reader. It's a fun reading experience. I did give this book 3.5 stars. If you like the genre, or if you're looking for a lighthearted wink wink nudge nudge mystery, I think that this is a good book for you. Next, my only physical book of the month was The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This book truly came home with me because it is so beautiful. This cover is absolutely insane. It's so pretty. I didn't know when I bought it that it was like a Goodreads choice book in maybe the romantasy or fantasy category. This book is about Kiela, works in the library in the capital city, and it is the library. It's the historical records, it's the spell books, and the library starts to burn. There's an upheaval in the capital. Kiela and her spider plant Kaz, who is like a walking, talking spider plant, they escape. And when they escape, they actually steal or steal, one of those words, the spell books. They're the official spell books of this world, so she wants to keep them to protect them. She and Kaz escape, and they take a boat and they go to an island. And this is the island that Kiela actually was raised on with her parents before her parents and her moved to the capital city. When she gets there, she finds their house. Obviously, it's way overgrown. It was, I think, 20 years ago or so when they left. And she's like, well, I'm gonna live here. Obviously, me and my plant Kaz. Enter Laren, her neighbor. Did anybody ever watch Cinderella 1.5? There is a baker character. He ends up falling in love with one of the evil stepsisters, and that character reminds me very much of Laren. He is just a very much golden retriever, here to do the right thing. Love language is acts of service kind of guy, and that is kind of scary for Kiela because she's quite introverted. She doesn't leave her house. She's like a homebody, and then she moves into this small community where that's just not an option. And not only is it not an option because she has to rely on the townspeople, it's not an option because she realizes that the spell books that she took can help this small island and small community thrive. I would say it's a true cozy fantasy, cozy romantasy. the romantasy aspect is like light. It's light. I would say that this is a pretty safe YA book if you're looking for a book for a child to read, or a young adult rather. I gave this book 4 stars. I would say it's in the high 3 or like 3.75 or so range. The action takes place so far in the back of the book that you have to be invested in the rest of the book for this to be like a 5-star for you. Up next, I read Next to You by Hannah Bonham Young. Hannah Bonham Young is one of the great ethereal voices in the contemporary romance game right now. Sorry to be controversial, hot take, I know. She's good. And I thought that this book was a great example of that. This book follows Lane. Lane is quite anxious. She is dealing with grief and living with grief, and has learned to cope in some pretty unhealthy ways. She lives in a city, a live social life with friends that really support her, including kind of a mutual friend named Matt. He's down bad for Lane. We get the love story between these two characters, and we see that because Lane buys a bus. She impulse buys a bus and is like, you know what, I'm gonna solve all my problems. And of course, Matt is a mechanic, so he volunteers to help her because he loves her. And then you see their like friendship progress into something more. Wait, do I have this book? I think I read this physically. Is it right behind me? No. One second. How silly of me. I own this book. So silly. I can't believe that I forgot that I had it. Lane buys a bus. Matt helps her put it back together. All the while, they're kind of falling in love. This book was a 4-star. I would say like maybe 4.25, 4.5. It really got up there. It just felt almost too perfect, and so it wasn't a total 5-star. Also, doesn't he look like Jason Momoa? Doesn't that he's the best. Like, some of the things that they say to each other in this book, I think it's technically the second. I didn't read the first one. You know, those interconnected standalone series, doesn't really matter. You know they're gonna end up together in the end. Okay, what a transition this is gonna be. I then read Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. And let's see. Okay, Five Brothers. Did you read Credence by chance? This is in a similar vein, similar to Credence, and I liked Credence, so you might be able to tell in which direction this is going. Five Brothers is about Christian, which is spelled the worst way ever, okay? Christian, Krisjen. I think it's supposed to show us that she's wealthy. Sure. She grew up on the right side of the tracks. Her best friend, however, I think her name is Olivia. I think she has her own book before this. I don't care. Her friend grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, and she is one of the Trist siblings. The Trist siblings, there's 6 of them. There's 5 brothers. Okay, and then there's the sister, who we don't care about. She's at college. Woohoo. Christian is in like a family dispute. Having money is so hard. So she ends up staying at the Trist house, and she is hooking up with one of the brothers in the beginning of the book. That's where we enter. There's a bit of a falling out, but she ends up staying at the the Trist brother house. And then that night, she just happens to like have an encounter with one of the Trist brothers, and we don't know which one. That's the whole point of the book, is she needs to find out which Trist brother she slept with. Yeah, and there's of course 5 of them, so she has to figure out. It's like Goldilocks, you know. This one's too hot, this one's too cold, this one's just right. There's 5 of them though, so it takes a while. If you like that kind of book, if you're into like, it's a dark romance. Some of the dark elements I think are stupid. Not to be a hater. I'm reading this book because it has a really ridiculous, smutty premise. I don't care that this is like Romeo and Juliet, except for there's 5 Romeos. It's silly, it's fun. I gave it 3 stars. Most of the time I was reading, I was like, I'm 30 years old. Okay, then we move on, unfortunately, to, I would say, my least favorite book of the month, and that's 5 Gold Rings by Kristen Bailey. It started out so strong for me, and it has like all of the makings of a perfect book. I love a Christmas book. I'm a Christmas gal. I love a book set in the UK. Love a book that is a little bit cheeky, and this book started that way. We meet Eve, our main character, and she walks in on her fiance in a situation in which he shouldn't be in with a coworker of his, all right? This scene hooked me. It really got me. She's like, absolutely not. She is obviously having a horrible, horrible day. She's throwing his stuff out the window. She's ruining Christmas. Love that. Then she goes to the ring shop that she works at part-time. She's drinking and she's sobbing. She's drinking and she's sobbing. So the jewelry shop owners call their other part-time worker, Joe, who is for some reason like a sexy Santa bellboy. Like he does like Santagrams, I guess, in his underwear. Cool. He comes to try and cheer her up. They realize that the jewelry shop, they accidentally gave the wrong order out to some customers. And so now there's 5 gold rings that have to get delivered to 5 couples before Christmas. Even Joe set out on trying to get these rings back to the right people. I don't think the writing really supported the plot very well. You get Joe, who obviously has always had a crush on Eve. You get Eve, who's actively grieving the loss of her relationship. And then at some point I'm supposed to buy that these two fall for each other. It's just not, it didn't really work for me. I gave it 2 stars. Yeah. Then I listened to Cassandra in Reverse by Holly Smale. And Cassandra in Reverse is about Cassandra, as I'm sure you know. And she has a really bad day. She gets broken up with by the first man that she's really had a connection with. She goes to work and has a horrible day at work and gets fired. And then she goes to her favorite bakery to get the banana muffin she orders every day and it's not there. And she has a breakdown. Like fully just loses her ever-loving mind, understandably, because she had all these horrible things happen to her. And then she wakes up the next day and it's that day over again. Then we enter into Cassandra basically trialing out time travel, trying to figure out what went wrong, both in her relationship and work. We see Cassandra trying to change herself so that she won't end up in the same position again. That is, I will say, 70% of the book. You're getting this replay, go forward, replay, go forward, replay, go forward. And then the last 30% of the book, we get this whole other side to Cassandra. It gets so good. For 80% of the book, I was like, okay, we get it, girl. Like we get it. Where you're trying to keep Will, you're trying to not get fired. You're trying to keep Will, you're trying not to get fired. You're making yourself smaller and different and better. And then the last 30% happens and it's amazing. And I think that this is actually my favorite book that I read this month. It's also an amazing audiobook. I also think that if you liked The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, anything where it's like kind of a long, meandering, low plot story, I think you'll like Cassandra in Reverse. I gave it a 4-star. That book sits with me more than I thought that it would. I read a little holiday novella. This is we're nearing the end of the month. I read Corporate Mandated Holiday Romance by Nellie Wilson. Have fun! And I was trying to suck January for all the Christmas glory that I could get. This book is about Brooklyn, who starts at her dream job. They're like an eco company. She's always been like an eco warrior. She finally gets this job. Amazing. And she walks in and she meets her boss in the elevator. And I'm thinking, while I'm reading on my Kindle, boop, boop, I'm thinking, oop, this is gonna be like a boss employee romance, which I love. And then it says something like, and the vibes were off. And I was like, uh-oh, boss is a bad guy. And she quickly realizes that her boss is a creep, like fully a creep. And like a bad guy, like supervillain bad guy vibes. She teams up with this journalist, Max, who's Jewish, and that's new to her. She's never met a Jewish person before. She lives in LA. There's a lot of Jewish people in California. Anyway. That's besides the point. The book is fun. I think Max is great. He's so Black Cat energy, like looks at you like side eye. He never gives Brooklyn an easy time. He's such a little sweetie who is like trying to do the right thing always. It's a novella. It's gonna be a little quickie. There's not a ton of character building in there. We were pacing along, okay? I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was a very fun time. I think that if you like holiday romance, you should pick this up next year when you're like getting into the holiday spirit. It's just a fun time. It's a quick read. And last but certainly not least, I listened to A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. And this book was bizarre. Great audio experience. If you're an audiobook gal, it's short. It's only like a 6-hour audiobook. That's a low commit. And this book is about Sam, who gets a call from her brother that says like something's up with mom. So she comes home. She is a insect archaeologist, insect something. She works with bugs. All she knows is bugs. Her project she's working on gets like sidelined. There's like human bones or something. They're like, okay, well, this is gonna take months to resolve, so go do something else. So she goes to stay with her mom. She gets home and her mom's really thin. She's not really like herself. She's repainted the house. Her mom has really reverted the house back into what it was when her grandmother was alive. And her grandmother, not a nice woman. So there's like this weird, is it like a haunted house? Is it what's going on? And bad things just keep happening, and Sam's having all of these crazy, creepy dreams. And anytime Sam mentions her grandma, her mom's like, no, don't talk about it. It's such a cozy horror novel. The last 20% things get a little bit odd. They get odd and weird and creepy. They get horror-y there at the end. But up until then, just a cozy little vibe. I truly did not see the last 15-20% of this book happening and actually being like, ugh. You know that face when you read like horror, when you're like, ugh. It does happen. You get there, but it is cozy. And the audiobook is a fun time. The narrator is like, oh, she's so good. And the main character is so quirky. I think that this is a book that is best listened to, because I could see how, without the intonation that the narrator gives it, you would miss some of the humor that Sam has. I give 3 stars. It's just a fun time. A very bizarre, cozy horror. Who thought we would end up there? Those are the 8 books that I read in January. No 5 stars. Couple of high 4s though. So we're going to count that as a win. Anyway, those are all the books that I read in the month of January. Let me know the books that you read last month down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!